snacking on cereal while I wait for my Prosecco to chill in the freezer. But today we will be discussing book bans and political idiocy. Welcome to Happy Hour.
At some point earlier this week, I think I decided I wanted these cocktails to follow an at least vaguely literary theme. So in honor of our old friend Victor, let's make a Hugo Spritz. Okay, where did I put the Prosecco? Haha! Okay, so strictly speaking, it's sparkling wine. Do we care all that much? Yeah, not really. As long as I get to do this. First rule of popping this kind of beverage. Twist the bottle, not the cork. See? Why, yes, this is an Aperol Spritz glass. The lady at the Milan airport duty-free was very persuasive. When your homegrown mint is shriveled outside from the cold, store-bought will do. There is cilantro on this lime. My mise en place could use some work, I acknowledge this. Okay, now my typical standard is to measure with your heart, but I've never made one of these before, so I'm measuring with the internet. And the internet says ½ ounce of Saint Germain, which we're gonna need to eyeball. You look right. 1 ounce of club soda. I'm not used to measuring fizzy things. And 4 ounces of Prosecco. If there are other ratios that work for y'all, let me know. That is not a large drink, but I also didn't put ice in it, did I? Hold, please. Is it perhaps too cold outside for this to be seasonally appropriate? Yes. I feel like that's another thing we don't really care about. Should I have added the mint first? Does slapping the mint actually do anything? You know, for a first go at it, I'll take it. Oh, that is nice. Wasn't the Hugo Spritz like New York's summer cocktail a couple years back? Well, I'm in Virginia. It takes us a minute. Oh, I really must have that more often. Book bans. Let's discuss. See, and I did a book haul yesterday wearing my Bans Off Our Books t-shirt. I should have worn this one, and that one should have been for today. Hindsight's 2020, I suppose. A big part of the reason I wanted to talk about this topic today is because the Big Five publishers, along with the Authors Guild and a handful of other organizations, have joined forces to challenge Idaho's House Bill 710, which prohibits anyone under the age of 18 from checking out library books that contain anything deemed sexual content, regardless of the work's literary or educational merit. Now, the Big Five publishers are Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, Hachette, Macmillan, and HarperCollins, and it's absolutely worth acknowledging that these are major corporations that have a vested interest in making sure that the books they publish can sell. That said, this particular book ban is incomprehensibly bananas. And by the way, state laws like this almost never end up affecting just that state. In many cases, it tends to be a domino effect. And then other states feel emboldened to enact similar laws. And Idaho's HB 710 doesn't distinguish between books geared toward infants and books geared toward 17-year-olds. Anyone under the age of 18 is lumped into the same category. Reading level does not matter. Maturity of the individual child does not matter. And this equally affects fiction and nonfiction books. It also uses some pretty general terms to describe sexual content, which means kids going through puberty could lose access to factual resources. You know, the kind that helps prevent against STIs, and all of the usual suspects have been targeted, including titles like The Handmaid's Tale. Imagine banning a book set inside an authoritarian regime in which it's illegal for women to read. The irony writes itself. And when I say this goes just beyond one state, I mean it. South Carolina's Regulation 43-170 falls within the state's Department of Education, and they've just added more titles to their list of books banned in public schools. This is another law that uses purposefully vague language around the term sexually explicit content. The most recent additions to that list include The Perks of Being a Wallflower and All Boys Aren't Blue. I have read a fair amount of erotica and sexually explicit literature in my life. I sure don't remember either of those two books even coming close. But those are two books that use fiction to discuss concepts like gender identity, family dynamics, and mental health. So what does taking away books like that actually do for the students? And the federal fail-stops put in place by previous administrations? Yeah, forget it. Did anybody else read that horrifying press release from the US Department of Education? You know, the one put out by the Office for Civil Rights. The one where they announced that they were going to dismiss nearly a dozen complaints around book bans. They also no longer employ a book ban coordinator, a person whose job it was to investigate complaints at the local school district level and determine whether or not those book bans were lawful. Yeah, that position doesn't exist anymore. And the quote reads that because this is a question of parental and community judgment, not civil rights, the OCR has no role in these matters. Censorship. Nothing at all to do with civil rights. Okay. Do I think that every high school student in the United States is mature enough to have conversations around actual sexually explicit content? Speaking as a parent of a middle schooler, no. I certainly wasn't ready to have a lot of those conversations as a high schooler. And I'm the gifted and talented weirdo who started testing at a college reading level in 4th grade. But banning Margaret Atwood and Sherman Alexie and Alice Walker does not do what these people think that it will do. And this will spread beyond just school libraries. This will go to public libraries as well. Public libraries, accessibly safe third spaces for millions of people. This is not typical of my happy-go-lucky content. but I am nothing short of appalled by the level of broad, vague, sweeping generalizations that are being attached to these sorts of bans. We do not need to put adult romance novels in public schools, but we do need a cogent dialogue about what is considered sexually explicit content. And I'm here to tell you there is more sex in the Bible than there are in some of these titles on these banned book lists. Boy, is that a conversation for another day. If you're seeing this on YouTube, my sources are linked below in the caption, and if you're seeing this on Bindery, the 10 books I've tagged are among the titles currently being targeted by these bans. I'll ask us to all please be respectful of each other, but let me know in the comments what you think of this issue. And if you're in a position to do so, please consider taking a look at how these conversations are being had in your local community, because these things always start with the people who attend local meetings. And until then, keep reading banned books. Source books. Another one that joined the complaint against HB 710. Imagine that.